Jinho had never seen so many aliens in one place. The great hall of the Galactic Summit stretched before him like a palace from a dream. Crystal chandeliers floated in the air without any wires. Tables made of glowing blue stone filled the massive room, and everywhere he looked, creatures from distant worlds walked, talked, and watched each other with careful eyes. He was not supposed to be here. Well, he was supposed to be here. But not like this. Jinho was a junior translator for the Human Diplomatic Corps. His job was simple. Stand in the corner. Listen. Translate if needed. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not make eye contact with important guests. Do not cause problems. But someone had made a mistake with the seating arrangements. Instead of sitting with the other junior staff at the back of the hall, his name card was placed at Table 7. Table 7 was in the center of the room. Table 7 was where ambassadors and high officials sat. Table 7 was directly next to the seat reserved for Queen Valera of the Ethani Empire. Jinho stared at his name card for a long moment. He looked around for someone to tell. But his supervisor, Director Kang, was across the room talking to a group of tall, gray-skinned aliens. The other human diplomats were busy with their own conversations. No one was paying attention to him. Maybe it was just a small mistake. Maybe no one would notice. He could sit down, stay quiet, and everything would be fine. He pulled out the chair and sat down. The alien already seated next to him turned to look. It was a Vethian, a species that looked like a mix between a lizard and a bird. Its yellow eyes blinked slowly. "You are human," it said. "Yes," Jinho replied politely. "Nice to meet you." The Vethian made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are sitting next to the Queen's chair. I noticed. You are not afraid?" Jinho thought about this question. He had heard stories about Queen Valera. Everyone had. She ruled the Ethani Empire, which controlled over 200 planets. Her species, the Ethani, were tall and beautiful in a dangerous way. They had pale blue skin, silver hair, and eyes that could see through lies. At least, that was what people said. They also said she had executed 3 ambassadors who displeased her. They said she never smiled. They said that looking into her eyes was like looking into the cold emptiness of space. "I think I am a little afraid," Jinho admitted honestly. The Vethian made that laughing sound again. Honest human, rare thing. Most would pretend to be brave. Before Jinho could respond, a hush fell over the great hall. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned toward the main entrance. Queen Valera had arrived. She was taller than Jinho had expected. At least 7 feet. Maybe more. Her skin was the color of winter ice, pale blue with hints of silver. Her hair flowed down her back like liquid moonlight. She wore a dress made of something that looked like frozen starlight, and a crown of black crystal sat upon her head. But it was her eyes that made Jinho's breath catch. They were completely black. No white, no color. Just endless darkness, like 2 windows into the void between stars. She walked through the hall without hurrying. Other aliens moved out of her way quickly. Some bowed. Some looked at the floor. No one spoke to her. No one dared. Behind her walked 4 guards in black armor. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. Jinho watched her approach. His heart was beating fast, but he did not look away. He had learned long ago that looking away from something scary did not make it less scary. It just meant you could not see it coming. The Queen walked past table after table. Important diplomats tried to catch her attention. They smiled. They bowed. They gestured to empty seats beside them. She ignored them all. She walked straight to table 7. She stopped right next to Jinho. For a moment, nothing happened. The whole hall watched in silence. Jinho could feel hundreds of eyes on him. He could feel the Vethian beside him shrinking back in his seat. Then Queen Valera did something unexpected. She looked at the chair on the other side of her reserved seat. A seat where a wealthy merchant from the Dorvian Federation sat. Sweating nervously. "Move," she said. Her voice was cold and clear, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. The merchant jumped up so fast he knocked over his drink. He grabbed his things and ran to another table without looking back. Queen Valera sat down in her reserved seat. Then she turned to look at Jinho. "You did not run," she said. Jinho swallowed hard. "Should I have? Most do. When they learn they will sit beside me, they find excuses. Sudden illness, important meetings, family emergencies." Her black eyes studied him. "But you sat down anyway." "My name was on the card," Jinho said. "I did not want to be rude." For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Her face was impossible to read. Then, very slightly, the corner of her mouth moved. It was not quite a smile, but it was not nothing either. "What is your name, human?" "Jinho. Park Jinho. You are not an ambassador." "No, I am a translator." "Junior translator? I think someone made a mistake with the seating." "I do not think it was a mistake," the queen said. Jinho blinked. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, servants began bringing food to the tables. Large plates filled with strange dishes from many worlds. The queen turned away from him to face the table. And the moment passed. Jinho sat very still. His mind was racing. What did she mean? It was not a mistake. Had someone planned this? Had she planned this? He looked around the hall. Director Kang was staring at him from across the room. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide with horror. He made a small gesture that clearly meant, "What are you doing?" Jinho gave a tiny shrug that meant, "I have no idea." The Vethian beside him leaned over and whispered, "You should be careful. Human. The queen does not speak to people without reason. And her reasons are never simple." Jinho looked at Queen Valera. She was examining a piece of fruit from some distant planet, her dark eyes revealing nothing. He had been warned to stay away from her. Everyone had. She was dangerous. She was cold. She was the most feared ruler in 12 star systems, but she had chosen to sit next to him. And despite every warning, despite every story he had heard, Jinho found himself curious. Why him? Of all the powerful diplomats and wealthy merchants in this hall, why had she spoken to a junior translator who was only here by accident? He did not know the answer. But he had a feeling he was about to find out. The feast began, and Jinho picked up his fork. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back now. The feast went on for nearly an hour before Queen Valera spoke to Jinho again. During that time, he tried to eat, but his stomach was too nervous to accept much food. He pushed strange vegetables around his plate and took small sips of water. Around him, the other guests at table 7 were quiet. The Vethian had stopped making conversation. The remaining diplomats kept their eyes on their food. No one wanted to draw the queen's attention. Jinho understood why. Even sitting still and eating, Queen Valera felt dangerous. She moved with perfect control. Every gesture was precise. Every glance was measured. She was like a predator pretending to be calm while secretly watching everything. He was watching a servant pour her drink when she suddenly spoke. "You keep looking at me." Jinho froze. The servant nearly dropped the bottle. "I am sorry," Jinho said quickly. "I did not mean to stare. You are afraid of me." "It was not a question." "A little," he admitted. "Yet you still look. Most beings who fear me cannot meet my eyes. They look at the floor. They look at their hands. They look anywhere except at me." She turned to face him fully. Those dark eyes seemed to swallow all the light around them. "Why are you different?" Jinho thought carefully before answering. He had a feeling that lying to her would be a very bad idea. Those eyes looked like they could see through any lie. "Where I come from, we have a saying," he said. "Do not turn your back on the ocean. The wave you do not see is the one that drowns you." Queen Valera tilted her head slightly. "You compare me to an ocean? I compare you to something powerful that I do not understand. It seems foolish to look away from something like that." The queen was silent for a moment. Then she made a sound that might have been a small laugh. "It was hard to tell. Your species is strange," she said. "I have met many humans over the years. Diplomats, soldiers, merchants. They all try so hard to impress me. They bow and smile, and say what they think I want to hear. But you. She paused. You just say what you think. Is that bad? It is unusual. Unusual things interest me. A servant appeared at Jinho's elbow, offering a tray of small round cakes covered in purple sauce. Jinho had no idea what they were, but they smelled sweet. Would you like some? Jinho asked the queen, gesturing to the tray. Everyone at the table stopped moving. The servant looked like he might faint. Even the guards behind the queen shifted uncomfortably. Queen Valera raised one silver eyebrow. You are offering me food? Jinho suddenly realized he might have made a terrible mistake. Different cultures had different rules about food. Maybe offering food to the Athani queen was an insult. Maybe it was a declaration of war. Maybe he had just started an intergalactic incident. Yes? He said weakly. They look good. I thought you might want to try one before they are all gone. The silence stretched on. Jinho could feel sweat forming on the back of his neck. Then Queen Valera did something that shocked everyone. She reached out, took one of the small cakes, and put it in her mouth. She chewed slowly. She swallowed. And then, for just a moment, her cold expression softened. These are acceptable, she said. The servant nearly collapsed with relief. Jinho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. On my world, the queen continued, offering food is a sign of trust. You offer something that could be poisoned. You show that you believe the other person will not harm you. Oh, Jinho said. I did not know that. I just thought they looked tasty. And that is why it matters. You did not calculate. You did not plan. You simply offered because you are kind. She took another cake from the tray. Kindness is rare in the galaxy. Power is common. Cruelty is common. But kindness? That is hard to find. Jinho did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as particularly kind. He was just ordinary. A regular person doing a regular job. May I ask you something? He said. You may ask. I may not answer. Why did you sit here? There were many more important people who wanted you at their tables. Ambassadors. Generals. The head of the Merchant Alliance was practically begging for your attention. Why choose to sit next to a junior translator? Queen Valera set down her fork. She looked at Jinho for a long moment, and he felt like she was looking straight through him, seeing every thought and feeling he had ever had. Do you know what it is like to rule an empire? She asked. No. Everyone wants something from you. Every word you hear is calculated to gain advantage. Every smile hides a request. Every gift comes with strings attached. After 100 years, you begin to feel like you are surrounded by masks. Beautiful masks. Ugly masks. But masks all the same. She looked out at the crowded hall. I came to this summit expecting more of the same. But then I saw your name on the seating chart. My name? How did you know my name? I did not. But I knew you were human. And I requested that a human be seated beside me. Jinho's mind raced. Why? Because humans are different. Your species is young. You have only been among the stars for 200 years. You have not yet learned to hide behind masks the way older species do. When a human is afraid, they show fear. When they are happy, they show joy. When they are kind. She glanced at the remaining cakes on the tray. They offer food to strangers. You wanted honesty, Jinho said slowly. That is why you chose a human. Yes. I am tired of lies dressed in pretty words. I wanted to speak with someone who would tell me truth, even if that truth was simple or foolish or afraid. She turned back to face him fully. Was I wrong to choose you? Jinho thought about all the warnings he had received. Stay away from the queen. Do not draw her attention. She is dangerous. She is cold. She is deadly. But sitting here, talking with her, he did not see a monster. He saw someone tired. Someone lonely. Someone who had spent so long being feared that she had forgotten what it felt like to be treated as a person. You were not wrong, he said. I will be honest with you. I cannot promise to be smart or clever. I am just a translator. But I can promise not to hide behind masks. For the first time since she arrived, something changed in Queen Valera's face. The coldness did not disappear completely, but it cracked. Just a little. Like ice beginning to thaw. Then perhaps, Park Jinho, she said, you and I should talk. Really talk. Not about treaties, or trade, or politics. Just talk. I would like that, Jinho said, and he meant it. Around them, the feast continued. Aliens from 100 worlds ate and drank and made deals and told lies. But at table 7, something different was happening. A human and a queen were having a conversation. And for the first time in a very long time, neither of them had to pretend to be something they were not. Jinho did not know where this would lead. He did not know why fate had brought him to this moment. But as he talked with the most feared queen in the galaxy, he realized something surprising. He was not afraid anymore. The feast ended late into the night. Other guests left in groups, whispering and glancing back at table 7 where Jinho still sat beside the queen. He could only imagine what they were saying. A junior translator, sitting with the most feared ruler in 12 systems, it must have seemed impossible. Director Kang had tried to approach the table 3 times. Each time, one of Queen Valera's guards had stepped forward, and the director had quickly retreated. Jinho knew he would have to explain everything later. He was probably in serious trouble, but right now, he could not bring himself to care. For the past few hours, he and the queen had talked about everything and nothing. She asked about Earth. He described the oceans, the mountains, the cities made of glass and steel. She told him about her homeworld, where the forests grew tall enough to touch the clouds and rivers glowed silver under 3 moons. She asked about human food. He spent 20 minutes trying to explain the concept of pizza. She seemed fascinated by the idea of putting many different ingredients on bread and eating it with your hands. She asked about human families. He told her about his parents, who still lived in the small town where he grew up. He told her about his older sister Nari, who was smarter than him in every way, and never let him forget it. Your sister sounds formidable, the queen said. She is terrifying, Jinho agreed. She is a scientist. She studies diseases from other planets. Whenever I visit her, she talks for hours about bacteria and viruses and things I do not understand. But she is also the kindest person I know. She once spent 6 months treating sick refugees from the Horath system, even though no one paid her to do it. Something flickered in the queen's eyes at these words. It was small. Just a brief change in her expression. But Jinho noticed it. Is something wrong? He asked. The queen was quiet for a long moment. Around them, servants were clearing the last tables. The great hall was nearly empty now. Walk with me, she said finally. It was not a request. Jinho stood and followed her. The guards fell into step behind them as they left the hall and walked out onto a wide balcony. The sky above was filled with unfamiliar stars. The queen stood at the railing, looking out at the night. Her silver hair moved gently in the wind. In this light, she looked less like a feared ruler and more like an ordinary person carrying a heavy weight. What I tell you now must stay between us, she said. If you repeat it to anyone, I will deny it. And then, I will have to silence you. Jinho's heart beat faster. But he nodded. I understand. My empire is dying. The words hung in the air like smoke. Jinho waited for her to continue. 18 months ago, a plague appeared on one of our colony worlds. We thought it was just a small sickness at first. But it spread, and spread, and spread. Her voice remained calm, but her hands gripped the railing tightly. It has now reached 63 of our planets. Millions of my people are infected. Thousands have already died. I am so sorry, Jinho said softly. Our doctors cannot stop it. Our scientists cannot cure it. Every treatment they try fails. The disease changes too quickly, adapts too fast. She turned to look at him. My people are dying, and I can do nothing but watch. Is that why you came to this summit? To ask for help? The queen shook her head slowly. I cannot ask for help publicly. The Athani Empire has many enemies. If they learn we are weakened, they will attack. Wars will start. More millions will die. She paused. I came here to find help quietly, secretly. And you think humans can help? Your species survived something similar. 80 years ago, the gray fever struck 3 of your colony worlds. It killed quickly and spread faster than anything your doctors had seen. But somehow, you stopped it. You found a cure in less than a year. Jinho remembered learning about the gray fever in school. It had been one of the worst disasters in human history. But a team of scientists had worked together and created a vaccine that saved millions of lives. I know the basic history, he said, but I am not a doctor or a scientist. I do not know the details of how they did it. I do not need you to know the details. I need you to connect me with people who do. The Queen stepped closer to him. I have read about your sister, Nari Park. She is one of the leading experts in xenobiology at the Human Medical Institute. She has spent her career studying alien diseases. Jinho felt the pieces click together in his mind. You did not choose to sit next to a human. You chose to sit next to me. Because of my sister. Yes. How did you even know about her? About me? I have spent months searching for someone who could help, someone outside the usual diplomatic channels, someone I could trust. She paused. Trust is not easy for me, but I watched you tonight. The way you offered food, the way you spoke without calculating every word. The way you treated me like a person instead of a queen. Her dark eyes held his gaze. I believe you are someone who keeps his promises. Am I wrong? Jinho thought about what she was asking. This was not a small favor. If he helped her secretly, he would be going around his own government. He could lose his job. He could be arrested for unauthorized diplomatic contact. Everything he had worked for could disappear, but then he thought about what she had told him. Millions of people dying. Thousands already dead. A queen who could not ask for help publicly because it would destroy her empire. He thought about his sister Nari, who had spent her life trying to save people from sickness and disease. What would she say if she knew there was a plague, killing millions, and she had the knowledge to help? He already knew the answer. I will contact her, Jinho said. I cannot promise she will agree to help. But I will ask her. That is all I ask, that you try. But I need you to promise me something in return. The Queen raised an eyebrow. You are making demands of a queen? Yes. Jinho took a deep breath. If my sister helps you, if she finds a cure, you have to use it to save everyone. Not just your own people. If the cure works, you share it with any world that needs it, even your enemies. For a long moment, Queen Valera said nothing. Her face was unreadable. Jinho wondered if he had gone too far. Then, slowly, she nodded. You would risk your career to help strangers you have never met? My sister would never forgive me if I did not try. And if your government finds out, if they punish you? Jinho smiled slightly. Then I will deal with that when it happens. Right now, people are dying. That is more important than my job. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. The coldness that had surrounded her all night seemed to melt away. Just a little. You are strange, Park Jinho. I have lived for over 300 years. I have met kings and generals and the greatest minds in the galaxy. But I do not think I have ever met anyone quite like you. Is that a good thing? I do not know yet. She turned back to look at the stars. But I think I would like to find out. They stood together in silence. 2 strangers from different worlds, looking up at the same sky. Somewhere out there, millions of people were dying, but perhaps, just perhaps, they had taken the first step towards saving them. Jinho pulled out his communicator and began typing a message to his sister. The reply would change everything. Nari's response came within an hour. Jinho had expected her to ask questions. He had expected doubt, hesitation, maybe even refusal, but his sister's message was simple and direct, just like her. Send me everything you have on this disease. I will look at it tonight. That was Nari. No long discussions. No careful consideration of the risks. If someone was sick, and she could help, she would help. It was that simple. Jinho shared the message with Queen Valera. For just a moment, he saw something like hope flicker in her dark eyes. Then her face returned to its calm mask. Your sister agrees to help just like that? Without knowing the full danger? Without demanding anything in return? That is how she is, Jinho said. She became a doctor because she wanted to heal people. Not for money or fame. Just because it was the right thing to do. I find it hard to believe such people exist. And yet here we are. The Queen studied him for a moment. You will need to come to my ship. The medical data is too sensitive to send through normal channels. We cannot risk it being intercepted. Jinho nodded. He had known this would be complicated. Director Kang will want to know where I am going. Tell him you have been invited as a guest of the Athani Empire. It is true enough. I will send an official invitation to make it appear normal. She paused. I assume you can handle any complications on your end. Complications. That was a nice word for the political storm that was about to hit. A junior translator, personally invited to the ship of the most feared queen in the galaxy? Director Kang would lose his mind. The human diplomatic corps would demand explanations. There would be meetings, reports, and probably a lot of yelling. But none of that mattered right now. I will handle it, Jinho said. 2 days later, he stood aboard the imperial vessel Starlight, the personal ship of Queen Valera. It was larger than some space stations. Corridors made of white metal stretched in every direction. Ethani crew members moved through the hallways, their pale blue skin and silver hair making them look like ghosts. They looked at Jinho with curiosity, some with distrust. A human on the Queen's personal ship? It had never happened before, but no one stopped him. The Queen's orders were absolute. Nari's face appeared on the communication screen in the medical bay. Behind her, Jinho could see the familiar walls of her laboratory on Earth. She looked tired but focused, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The data you sent is fascinating, she said without any greeting. Also terrifying. This virus is unlike anything I have ever seen. It rewrites itself constantly, changing its structure to avoid the immune system. No wonder their doctors cannot find a cure. Can you help? Jinho asked. Maybe. During the gray fever outbreak, we faced a similar problem. The virus kept changing too fast for us to target. But we found a weakness. She pulled up some images on her screen. Instead of trying to destroy the virus directly, we trained the immune system to recognize patterns in its mutations. The body learned to predict how the virus would change and attack it before it could adapt. Queen Valera stepped forward. She had been standing silently in the corner, listening. You believe the same approach could work for our plague? Nari looked at the Queen for the first time. To her credit, she did not seem afraid. Then again, Nari had spent years cutting open infected bodies and studying deadly diseases. A queen, even a terrifying one, was probably not the scariest thing she had seen. It might work, Nari said carefully. But I need to study the virus directly. I need samples. I need to see how it behaves in living tissue. And I need your medical research, everything your doctors have tried, every treatment that failed. The failures will tell me as much as the successes. You will have whatever you need, the Queen said. There is another thing. Nari hesitated. This kind of research takes time. Months. Maybe longer. And I cannot do it alone. I will need a team. Other scientists who specialize in different areas. Genetic experts. Immunologists. Virologists. Can you gather such a team without alerting the human government? Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled slightly. I know people. Scientists who care more about saving lives than following rules. They will help. But I cannot promise total secrecy. Eventually, someone will notice what we are doing. Queen Valera nodded slowly. Then we will work as quickly as possible. Every day we delay, more of my people die. The next few weeks were the strangest of Jinho's life. He stayed aboard the Starlight, serving as the link between Nari's team and the Ethani doctors. He was not a scientist, but he was useful. He translated communications, arranged meetings, and handled the countless small problems that came up when two very different cultures tried to work together. It was not easy. The Ethani doctors were proud and suspicious. They did not like taking advice from humans, a species they considered young and primitive. More than once, arguments broke out in the medical bay. Voices were raised, instruments were thrown, but slowly, grudgingly, they began to work together. Nari's determination was impossible to ignore. She worked 18-hour days without complaint. When Ethani doctors dismissed her ideas, she calmly presented evidence until they could not argue anymore. When experiments failed, she simply started again. Queen Valera visited the medical bay every day. She never interfered with the research. She just watched, her dark eyes following every movement, every conversation. Sometimes, she stood beside Jinho. "Your sister is remarkable," she said one evening. "I know," Jinho replied. "She has always been the strong one in our family. And what about you?" "I am just here to help however I can." The queen was quiet for a moment. "You underestimate yourself, Park Jinho. You think you are ordinary because you are not a scientist or a soldier. But you are the one who made this possible. You are the bridge between our worlds." She turned to look at him. "Without you, I would have never found your sister. My people would have no hope." Jinho did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as important. He was just doing what needed to be done. Back on Earth, Director Kang sent angry messages demanding explanations. The Human Diplomatic Corps launched an investigation. News reporters began asking questions about the human translator who had been seen boarding an Ethani warship. Jinho ignored it all. There would be time to deal with the consequences later. Right now, saving lives was more important. 3 months into the research, Nari made a breakthrough. She burst into the communication room with wild eyes and messy hair, waving a tablet like a flag. "I found it," she said breathlessly. Jinho felt his heart leap. "You found a cure?" "Not yet. But I know how to make one. We need to run more tests. Create a prototype treatment. Test it on samples." She was talking so fast, Jinho could barely follow. "But I know we can do this. I know it." Jinho smiled for the first time in months. Hope was no longer just a flicker. It was growing into a flame. The cure took another 4 months to develop. 4 months of sleepless nights, failed experiments, and moments of despair when it seemed like nothing would work. But Nari and her team never gave up. Neither did the Ethani doctors, who had finally learned to respect the small human woman who refused to let their people die. When the first successful test came back, the medical bay erupted in cheers. Ethani and human scientists hugged each other, tears streaming down faces of different colors. Years of distrust melted away in a single moment of shared joy. The cure worked. Against all odds, against every prediction, it worked. Queen Valera received the news in silence. She stood at the window of her private quarters, looking out at the stars. When the doctors finished their report and left, only Jinho remained. "Your sister did the impossible," the queen said softly. "She always does. It is annoying, actually. Growing up with her was very difficult. She made me look bad at everything." A small sound escaped the queen's lips. It took Jinho a moment to realize she was laughing. He had never heard her laugh before. It was quiet and rusty, like something that had not been used in a very long time. "You are still making jokes," she said. "Even now. Especially now. Happy moments should have laughter." The queen turned to face him. In the soft light of the stars, her features seemed less cold than before. She looked almost human. In a way, almost ordinary. "I did not think I would survive this," she admitted. "Not the plague itself. I was never sick. But watching my people die, being unable to help them, it was destroying me from inside. Every day, I woke up and wondered if this would be the day I lost hope completely. But you did not lose hope." "No. Because of you. She stepped closer to him. You offered me food at a banquet, Park Jinho. Such a small thing. Such a simple act of kindness. But it reminded me that good still exists in this universe, that not everyone hides behind masks and calculations. I was just being polite, and that is exactly why it mattered. The cure was distributed across all 63 infected worlds within 2 months. Millions of lives were saved. The plague that had threatened to destroy the Ithani Empire was stopped in its tracks. Queen Valera kept her promise to Jinho. When other worlds reported similar outbreaks, she shared the cure freely, even with her enemies, even with those who had hoped her empire would fall. Why are you giving the cure away? One of her advisors demanded. We could use this as leverage. We could demand payment, territory, power. We could, the queen agreed. But we will not. Why? Because someone reminded me that kindness matters more than power. And I choose to believe he was right. All low. Quote, the galaxy watched in amazement as the feared Ithani Empire became known for something other than strength and coldness. Ships carrying medicine traveled to every corner of known space. Doctors trained by Nari's team spread out to teach others how to fight the disease. For the first time in 300 years, Queen Valera was spoken of with gratitude instead of fear. The human diplomatic corps eventually dropped their investigation against Jinho. It was hard to punish someone who had helped save millions of lives. Director Kang still glared at him during meetings, but even he had to admit that things had turned out better than anyone expected. Nari became famous across the galaxy. She received awards, medals, and invitations from every major world. She accepted them politely, then went back to her laboratory to work on the next problem. Fame had never interested her. Only helping people. You should enjoy this more, Jinho told her during one of their video calls. You are a hero. Oh, heroes are just people who did what needed to be done, Nari replied. I had help. Those Ithani doctors worked just as hard as I did. And you were the one who brought us together in the first place. I just translated some messages. You did more than that, little brother. You believed in something when no one else did. That takes courage. 1 year after the cure was distributed, Jinho received an invitation. Queen Valera was hosting a celebration on her home world. A gathering to honor everyone who had helped stop the plague. His name was on the guest list. He almost did not go. The journey was long, and he was not good at formal events. But Nari insisted, and he could never say no to his sister. The queen's homeworld was more beautiful than Jinho had imagined. Forests stretched to the horizon, their leaves shimmering silver and gold. Rivers of glowing water wound through valleys filled with flowers that sang in the wind. 3 moons hung in the purple sky, casting soft light over everything. The celebration was held in the queen's palace. Thousands of guests filled the great hall. Ithani nobles in flowing robes, human diplomats in their finest uniforms, representatives from dozens of other worlds. Everyone was talking, laughing, celebrating the end of a nightmare. But the queen found Jinho standing alone on a balcony, away from the crowds. You do not enjoy parties, she said, coming to stand beside him. I enjoy this one. I just needed some air. I understand. Sometimes the noise becomes too much. She looked out at the moonlit landscape. Do you remember the first night we spoke? On the balcony at the summit? I remember. You told me your empire was dying, and you promised to help me save it. She turned to face him. Her dark eyes were softer now than they had been that night. Something had changed in her over the past year. The coldness had not disappeared completely, but it had thawed. Underneath it was a warmth that Jinho suspected had always been there, hidden away and protected. Thank you, she said simply. You do not need to thank me. You already thanked me at the official ceremony. 3 times. Those were public words, official gratitude. This is different. She took a deep breath. Before I met you, I had forgotten what kindness felt like. I had ruled for so long, feared for so long, that I could not remember the last time someone treated me as simply a person. You changed that. I did not do anything special. I just offered you cake. The queen smiled. It was a real smile. small, but genuine. Jinho realized he had never seen her truly smile before. "You humans," she said. "You always underestimate yourselves. You think kindness is ordinary because it comes naturally to you. But it is not ordinary. It is the rarest and most precious thing in the universe." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool, like touching smooth stone. But her grip was gentle. "I was warned to stay away from you, Park Jinho. Or rather, you were warned to stay away from me. But I am glad you did not listen. So am I." They stood together in the moonlight, a queen and a translator, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Behind them, the celebration continued. Laughter and music filled the air. Two worlds that had once been strangers were now united by something more powerful than treaties or trade. They were united by kindness. By a simple act of offering food to a stranger. By the belief that good things were still possible. Even in a galaxy full of darkness, Jinho did not know what the future would bring. He did not know if the peace would last, or if new challenges would arise. But he knew one thing for certain: he had been cautioned to stay away from her. But the alien queen had chosen to sit next to him. And that choice had changed everything. Some warnings, he realized, were meant to be ignored.